First of all, on behalf of the Women in Tech Student Club, I welcome you. My name is Peggy White. I'm the Associate Dean and Director in the School of Technology for our IT program, our BSIT and MSIT degrees. And I'm also the faculty sponsor for the Women in Tech Club, so we're delighted to have you here tonight. We have a great program from Dr. Deborah Murphy on building resilience through emotional intelligence. And I'm going to ask Deborah to introduce herself since my voice is so hoarse, and if I talk very long, I start to cough. So, Deborah, if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself and get started, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you, Peggy. I appreciate it. Glad to be here. I love this topic that we're going to be talking about tonight, and I'm glad to be presenting it. My name is Deborah Murphy, and I work for the School of Business as one of the instructors. And I've been working for WGU going on 5 years. And the subject that I'm going to be talking about, I've been teaching it basically for the whole 5 years, and one or the other courses that I've taught. My background is in business and management. I actually retired from the Department of Defense as a comptroller. And so I spent, I don't want to say how many, but I'll say 30 plus years with the Department of Defense before I retired. And got a chance to work with a lot of diversity, which I love. Working with diversity is just, the best of all worlds. So I've pretty much been stationed and worked in several places within the United States, but several outside of the United States to include Thailand, Japan, Korea. And my last assignment was in Afghanistan. So I like, differences and excitement. Today, what we're going to talk about is resilience, which means how to bounce back from difficulties, right? And emotional intelligence are both great, which is about understanding feelings. I want to share some tips with each of you that I think that can help you in your everyday life. I know it did me. Before we start, just want you to think in the back of your mind, how many of you have faced challenges recently? Haven't we all? Students most definitely face so many challenges. And we, just in general face challenges. I can raise my hand first up saying, yes, I just recently went through a surgery myself. And that was a huge challenge, bigger than I thought it was going to be. What we're going to do today, I'm going to introduce our topic. We're going to, let's get this up here. We're going to talk about understanding resilience, understanding emotional intelligence. And when we talk about resilience, by that I mean, why it's important, and then talk about emotional intelligence and how it helps us be more resilient. And we're going to talk about complementary relationships, empathy and support systems, stress management, examples of intersection, and I'll get to that conclusion, and then I'm going to take some questions. What we're going to do is I'm going to share some easy tips for each of you to practice these skills in your life. So let's get going. Here we go. All right, understanding emotional intelligence. Let's start first with understanding the resilience piece of it. Let's start with defining resilience. Resilience is our way of bouncing back from adversity. We each have our own way, right? We all do it differently. It could be adversity, it could be trauma, it could be stress, it could be something that happened in your past that still haunts you today, it could be something that just happened yesterday. It's the capability to recover quickly from difficulties. For example, consider an athlete recovering from an injury. Their resilience helps them stay focused on their goals, maintain a positive mindset, and ultimately return stronger than before. We have a lot of athletes. You see them on television now, a lot of football players. They're undergoing all these different injuries. I was watching television the other day and was talking about how some of them decide not to come back, right? And some of them get these injuries time and time again, and they still keep coming back. Resilience, you could call it also grit. It's something that it's the determination that you have, not in the short run, but you have in the long run. Those resilient individuals, they tend to view challenges as opportunity for growth, rather than they see it as insurmountable obstacles. Yeah, they cultivate a sense of optimism and, persistence, and that persistence really helps you push through. So the question is, how do you cultivate resilience? And I think that's a great question. And that cultivating resilience and enhancing emotional intelligence, it's a journey, that can significantly improve our daily lives. And here are some practical steps I think people can take that's going to be beneficial to them. First, cultivating resilience. First and foremost, you have to develop the growth mindset. That means embracing challenges and opportunities to learn rather than, obstacles. So those opportunities come along, if you can embrace those challenges and see them as opportunities to grow. This shift in perspective is going to foster resilience by encouraging a more of a proactive approach to any kind of difficulties versus stepping back, step forward. Almost run to it. Build strong relationships. That's another good one. Surround yourself with supportive friends, family members, colleagues, and we all have them. We all have people in our lives that we can go to, hopefully. I mean, that's a powerful thing when you have someone that you feel like, when you need them, you can go to them, if nothing else, but just to talk, share your experience, maybe seek support when you need to. And maybe they can boost your resilience. Community support. Communities often come together stronger after facing adversity. We see it all the time. I mean, the television brings it all to us, right? All these different adversities, and we see these communities coming together. Especially after all these natural disasters that we're seeing. Neighborhoods typically unite to support one another. They create these bonds that may not have ever existed before. For instance, after Hurricane Katrina, many individuals and organizations, they rallied around and they helped those affected. They fostered new friendships and networked. Uh, they were developed to support these efforts. I remember that so well because I was a comptroller uh, for First Army during that time. And my boss, Lieutenant General Honore, was really sent to uh, the area where Katrina hit, Louisiana and Mississippi. And he was putting a lot of effort and time in there. And the FEMA had sent my office all the money. So we were managing the money going to there. And actually, I had a chance to actually go there and fly over the area in a helicopter. So I was very involved in Hurricane Katrina during that time of the disaster, and then afterwards, just trying to satisfy all the financial requirements that FEMA had for us. And just most recently, the hurricane, I think it was Francine that just hit Florida, so and other places. So these disasters, they really affect places, and you see people that get involved, and it's only to try to help others. Practice self-care. That's my third, point I want to make on this. Practice that self-care. Prioritize physical and mental well-being. Now, you can do that through regular exercise, healthy eating, getting that adequate rest. And they've got so many studies out talking about the importance of getting enough rest and, staying hydrated, drinking enough water. Oftentimes, maybe during the day while I'm working, I might feel a little stressed. I grab myself a bottle of water and drink it, it really helps me out quite a bit. Emotional resilience. People often develop emotional resilience through struggles, right? Through their struggles. I know I have developed that resilience. I seem to get stronger, and I'm sure you feel that way too. When you have struggles and you work through those struggles, it just makes you stronger for the next one because normally they don't stop coming. can expect maybe additional struggles down the road someplace. You learn to cope, you get these coping mechanisms in place, and finding joy in small victories. When you have a victory, take time to enjoy it. I don't care what it is. Maybe you were able to make a great meal for your family, celebrate that. That's something to be celebrated. Maybe you get to see your grandkids, your children, whatever it might be, but celebrate small victories. You know, live in the moment of that celebration of those small victories. For example, someone navigating maybe a difficult time may discover mindfulness practices like meditation or journaling that which can help them, process emotions and cultivate a sense of peace. So, set realistic goals. I think sometimes our goals are really too high, or maybe, you know, uh, you just do that naturally. I love to be when really you should set those realistic goals, break those larger goals into manageable steps. All right. Achieving those small milestones, they can create a sense of accomplishment and motivate you to keep going, even during the tough times. Even we tell our students, while you're studying, break it into chunks. Break it into chunks where maybe you study for 20 minutes and take a break for 5. Maybe you study for 30, take a break for 10 minutes. But, break it into chunks. And that seems to be so helpful. And, you don't feel just so dragged down in it. So during those tough times, make sure that you make a sense of accomplishment, motivate yourself by keeping going by small milestones, and they can create that sense of accomplishment. Reflect on your experiences. That's something I think that we are pushing forward so fast and so hard to get so many things done. We don't take time and appreciate and reflect on the things that we've already accomplished, the good things. So, taking time to reflect on our past challenges, and how we overcame them. That's huge. Recognizing our strength, those strengths that we have, that can reinforce our ability to handle any kind of future difficulties. Knowing that, well, I handled it before, I can handle this as well. Innovation, adversity often drives innovation and problem solving. I'm going to give you an example. So during the pandemic, remember, many of the businesses, we had to pivot real quickly to survive, didn't we? So you can be seen in the form of like a form of a blooming in a challenging circumstance. I mean, think about that pandemic. We had students that couldn't go to school. What did we have to do? We had to learn. Our students had to learn to use computers so that they could go online and actually learn. Okay, now I want to move on, and let's talk about the emotional intelligence piece of it. The emotional intelligence piece, it refers to the ability to recognize, to understand, and to manage our own emotions, right? Manage our emotions. And so that we're not just attuned to our own emotions, but that helps us get into a tune of others' emotions as well, too. So Daniel Goleman, let me get his last name right, Goleman. He was a psychologist, and he defined emotional intelligence as comprising 5 key components. One was self-awareness, the other self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So you imagine a leader who has high emotional intelligence. And really, you really want all of your leaders to have high emotional intelligence because they're really good. Because not only do they understand themselves, they're able to communicate well with their groups and their employees. They can effectively navigate feelings of their own team. They can adapt their approach during stressful situations, and they can inspire others through empathy and understanding. And we're going to talk some about that. That's why I love this subject so much. Emotional intelligence, a lot of times people go, okay, emotional intelligence is about me understanding others and them. No, Emotional intelligence is about me understanding me. So when I look at enhancing my emotional intelligence, that means I have to become self aware. I have to regularly check in with my own emotions. That could be through journaling. It can be an effective way for me to understand my feelings and reactions better. Practice active listening. Focus on listening to others without interrupting. In other words, listen to understand, listen to learn. You might want to practice that 80-20 rule. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but heard of it or not, but 80-20 is 80% of the time you're listening to the speaker. And 20% of the time you might be responding or asking questions. But that's also called, you know, uh, that active listening. Be very proactive with that. So if you're actively listening, you're not just listening to the words, you might be listening to the nonverbal stuff too, like the tone of the voice, the body language going on, the eyes rolling, whatever it might be, because all of that equates to actively listening and trying to understand where somebody else is coming from. So try to understand their feelings and perspectives, which really helps you build empathy. In order to have empathy, in other words, be able to put yourself in their shoes to try to understand them, why they act or do certain things, you have to actively listen to try to learn why that person is acting like they could be a valid reason. We're all not the same. We have different personalities. We do things for different reasons. But unless you take the time to try to be socially aware of someone by actively listening and trying to get to the a deeper level of understanding of that person, you really will not be able to show empathy. So empathy is putting yourself into someone else's shoes, managing your emotions. Now, these techniques, trying to learn techniques for managing your emotions, your emotional responses, such as like maybe deep breathing, mindful practices. This can help you stay calm in stressful situations. I know it does me. I mean, it could be at home, with the kids. It could be at work. It could be online. It could be with your students. It could be many, just, at the grocery store talking to someone. But being able to understand, how you feel, that self-awareness, and managing those emotions so that you can respond in a positive way. So you could you for me, I might have to walk away. I might have to I like to tell myself internally, zip it, Deborah. In other words, don't say anything because or deep breathing, mindful practices, empathy exercises, put yourself in other shoes, engage in conversations to understand their feelings and their perspectives better, which enhances, our emotional connection with them. It is amazing how oftentimes, you can judge someone, but unless you hear their story, you have no idea why a person does or acts like they act. I like to say the best part of a person is their story. Now, I'm terrible at remembering names. I promise you. I wish I was better. My husband is great at it. But for me, I can forget a name, but I will never forget your story. I will remember your story because I love stories from people because it tells me more about them at a deeper level. Another factor is seeking feedback, to be open to feedback from your trusted colleagues or friends or about your emotional responses, maybe, and your interpersonal connections. Constructive criticism, can really help us grow. If we're open to constructive criticism, oftentimes, we might become defensive, we might become angry, we might become aloof, we might reject it right off the bat. But, it's better for us to be open to the feedback and listen because we just might learn something about ourselves that we just didn't know. But, that constructive criticism can really help us grow if we let it. All right. Okay. Wow. Moving right along here. At least it feels that way. let's go and talk about complementary relationships. So, what is it? So, how uh, does resilience and emotional intelligence, how do they complement each other? They complement each other because self-awareness and resilience, being aware of our own emotions, that helps us, it allows us to understand when we're feeling, overwhelmed. This awareness is the first step in building resilience. You know that? So, how we, if we understand, you know, we're overwhelmed, that's a form of understanding ourselves because oftentimes we find ourselves like that frog that started off in cool water and the temperature started getting hotter and hotter. It was warm and they could handle it. And then it was boiling and then the frog was just laying in boiling water. It was killing it. And sometimes we do that. We start off and we are under some stress and then we can handle it and we put more on ourselves. Oh, well, we can handle that too. Then we put more on ourselves. We can handle that too. If you're like me, I don't know how to say no. I need to learn. But honestly, how many of us strive to be the best that we can be? And oftentimes that means never saying no. We can handle one more thing. So, but the danger is if we begin feeling overwhelmed and we just continue to let it go on, being knowing that you're overwhelmed, this awareness is the first step in building resilience. For instance, if we recognize that stress is affecting our performance, we can take steps to manage it, whether through mindfulness practices or maybe seeking support. you know, Consider giving yourself permission to have some maybe days off if you feel too overwhelmed. Healing is a process that takes time. I mean, it might help us to set small, achievable goals again for ourselves each day, rather than trying to take on this huge amount. Maybe we take on small goals, whether, even if it's just, I like to walk 2 miles every day. Maybe you don't start walking 2 miles every day in the very beginning. You might take short walks, uh, practicing deep breathing again, exercises, and, just simply spending time doing something you enjoy while resting. But sometimes we just go, 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 go. We'll get off from work and then, we go, 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 go in our house. I don't know about you, but I'm really good at jumping from my work right into my housework, laundry and so forth, which is better for me just to take some time and rest. That's just part of being self-aware, aware that I am overwhelmed or feeling overwhelmed, and I need to take a step back and rest. Personal growth, just like a flower pushes through a rocky soil to bloom, people often find that difficult experiences, like recovering from illnesses or surgery, can lead to significant personal growth. For instance, someone who has faced a serious health challenge might emerge with a deeper understanding of their strength and renewed appreciation for life. Several years ago, I went through cancer and I ended up having several surgeries, chemotherapy, radiation. And I was right in the middle of my career. I was headstrong that I was not going to let the cancer interfere with my career growth. So I'm not going to tell you everything I did, or I should have done that I didn't do. But um, it was I should have rested more, but I didn't. But long story short, I came out of that whole situation very appreciative for those other women who go through the same thing that I went through, and especially the fact that many of those women didn't have health care to help them along. And there are so many things when you're going through any kind of personal challenge like that. serious health challenges. There's so many things I think that come to light that causes you to be appreciative of life and appreciative of other people that are going through it or who have gone through it. Empathy and support systems. Emotional intelligence, it enables us to be empathetic toward others. It really does. When we understand and validate the feeling of those people around us, we can help create supportive environments. A team where members feel understood and valued is far more resilient in the face of challenges. And like I'm on a team that we are so supportive of each other. I mean, it's just like a family. Really appreciate that. I've got a lot, I work with a lot of professional people, and they're very smart and very helpful. I talk to them. Online we talk, we go back and forth because we each have the desire to help the student, but it's an amazing feeling to have people around you who are helpful in that way. Creativity. Many artists, writers who have turned their struggles into beautiful works of art. I remember when I was working in Virginia, and over the weekend there was this one art fair that was going on, and I walked into this room, and there were these porcelain dolls, beautiful porcelain dolls. And over to my right, the artist was there, and she was actually working on a desk and working on something else. And I asked her, I said, "These dolls are beautiful. Where did you begin? Did you begin with a picture in order to form their face?" And she said, "I just began." And they started, and that's how they formed. In other words, she had nothing but her imagination, and she began that way. But many artists, they struggles, like she was talking, she mentioned to me how she had to go through difficulty starting her business and different things, and it was so heartwarming to hear her story. She channeled her physical pain and her emotional struggles into her painting, and she created these powerful pieces that I was actually looking at. Her work, it really spoke to the beauty that can arise from any kind of hardship that she had told me she had been going through, and how she decided to do that type of work. Let's talk about stress management. High
Deborah,
emotional, yes.
I apologize, Deborah. This is Cecilia. Really quick, could you let us know if the slides should be moving? Because we're still seeing understanding emotional intelligence.
So sorry. Yes, it
No
should be
worries.
right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
so sorry.
No, I apologize to interrupt you.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking at my computer, and I should be looking at my other computer over there. Okay. So let's talk some about stress management. When you're looking at stress management, the emotional intelligence, it really aids managing stress. When you're faced with pressures, individuals with strong emotional intelligence, they're better equipped to cope, lead, and maybe even enhance their resilience. For example, a manager who can remain calm and composed under stress, they can guide the team through turbulent times, and they can really uh, help with collective resilience. All right, so now the picture you see in front of you, examples of intersections. What the heck does that mean? Let's consider a real world example. I already talked about the pandemic earlier on. There were many organizations, I want to go back to that, that were faced with these unprecedented challenges. Leaders with both resilience and high emotional intelligence, they were better able to steer their teams through uncertainty. And how did they do that? They communicated transparently. Do you remember when we had our elementary school teachers and parents out there, you know, trying to help their children at home get set up with the computers, teachers trying to learn to teach the students through online platforms, which they'd never done before. Businesses, how they had to issue out computers to their workers so that their employees could work from home. I mean, there were a lot of things that came out of that. So, that was a wonderful example of, adapting to, work-life balance, wouldn't you think? So they, for us, when it comes to like our students, it's the environment where our students work, just making them feel safe, being able when they're talking to us feel like they can learn from their failures. We have students that failed the objective assessment, and when you call them, you, you just all you can do is talk them off the edge, and it's like this was only an exam. This was not, this is an exam that you can go back, you can study again, and we will retake the exam. But they have to feel like their instructors, they feel safe around their instructors, and they can actually learn from their failures. For myself, I know when I was going to school, I learned from my failures probably more than anything else because I had to back it up and I had to redo something, which made me stronger and more knowledgeable in that particular subject. And actually, to tell you the truth, it's been years ago since I was in school getting my degrees. I don't remember any of I'm sure I had successes. I wouldn't be here today, but I don't remember those failures. I don't remember how I felt. So that just tells you how you can overcome that. So this is the kind of emotional connection that promotes resilience among people, and helps them to persevere. Mindful practices, using that mindful meditation or yoga, in our everyday routine and to enhance maybe both our resilience and our emotional intelligence. These practices improve self awareness and emotional regulation, helping us to regulate our emotions. Um, we may want to join supportive communities, engage in groups or workshops that focus on personal development, share our experience with people that we trust and learn from each other. My personal preference is to learn from somebody else's bad experiences, but that doesn't always happen. I learn from my own bad experiences, but I can also learn together. I can join a supportive group. I can strengthen my resilience and my emotional intelligence by sharing my experience. And by consistently applying these type of strategies, people can cultivate uh, resilience in their everyday life while, also strengthening their emotional intelligence. I mean, it's a continuous process. It's an everyday process, and it can really lead us to a greater personal, professional fulfillment. Um, I don't know if you maybe have any specific areas where you feel like you'd like to develop, these type of skills or not. I think that we can all learn and grow and become uh, better communicators, better people. That was another chart. On my side, it's showing they're going up, but apparently they're not. Okay. So this is the example of the intersection that we were talking about and how things like that everything that we just talked about, how they intersect and how things come together, during challenging moments. All right, let's look at this one. This is really one of my last charts here. And this is talking about assessing our own emotional intelligence in daily interactions. It can be a valuable, and I've got tennis shoes there, exercise for personal growth. So there are so many practical steps to take, and I'm going to just walk through them with you. Number one, always be ready for self reflection. After, for instance, like after social interactions, take time to reflect on your emotions and your reactions. You may want to ask yourself questions like this: how did I feel during that interaction? That's a good question. What triggered my feelings? It's another good question. Did I respond appropriately to the emotions of others? Another great question. How did I feel? What triggered me? How did I respond? So that's self reflection. And, not enough of us do that, but that is so important. Journaling, keep a journal where you write down significant interactions. You write your notes and your emotional responses to them. And this can help you identify patterns over time. And it really helps you recognize areas for improvement. I know that when I was so many years younger than I am now, working, children at home, traveling, going to school, and wow, so much going on. And I would journal. I didn't care how late I stayed up at night studying. I always took time to journal. And I forgot about that journal. And just about 3 years ago, my husband and I were cleaning out the garage, and I came across that journal. I was going through that journal, and I couldn't believe. I said, "Wow, this young woman was struggling." Just looking back, but it was a struggle that made me a stronger person in so many areas when I was reflecting and reading that journal. And when I tell my students, you can do this, I mean it because I lived it. They can do it. It, you can, it's a struggle, but it only makes you stronger, especially if you're seeking out something that you want. Seek feedback. Ask trusted friends, family, colleagues for their perspectives on how you handle emotions in various situations. So, what's wrong with going, hey, how did I handle that situation? Did Was I offensive when I was talking to that person? What do you think? Um, they may offer some insights on what we may not see in ourselves. Observe reactions. Pay attention to how you and others respond emotionally in different contexts. So notice if you find it easy to empathize with others' feelings or if you struggle to understand them. Or is it all about us? Is it all about me? Or am I going to allow myself to put myself in their shoes and try to empathize with them? Mindfulness practices. So engage in mindfulness meditation exercise that it's going to focus on emotional awareness. I mean, be present. That helps you become more attuned to your emotions and those of others. Be where you are, not, an hour from now planning your grocery list. You can't go back and fix anything. So for you to waste your time thinking about what maybe you should have, could have done, you be in the moment, because that's the only thing you can manage is the moment at hand right now. So try to be in the moment. Um, Emotional triggers, we all have them. It's really good to know what your emotional triggers are. Identify specific situations that maybe elicit strong emotional reactions in you. Understand your triggers. And it can help you manage your responses and improve your emotional regulation. In other words, if I can identify what's triggering me to feel this way, then maybe my responses hopefully will be more positive. My responses, that's controlling me. Role playing scenarios, it's not a bad thing to practice responding to, maybe hypothetical emotional situations with a friend or maybe even a mentor. I mean, this can help us develop better strategies for real life interaction. And, they have these online assessments. I don't know if you all have ever run across them, but consider taking a reputable emotional intelligence assessment. I mean, these tests can really provide us with a structured way to evaluate our emotional intelligence and give us some insights into areas for development. So, by regularly engaging in these type of practices, I mean, I think that we can gain a better understanding, clearer understanding of our own emotional intelligence. And, bloom in place. That's the big thing. And, even if it's adversity, you can bloom during your adversity. But first, it starts with us, right? So emotional intelligence, start working on enhancing it in our daily life. That's what's going to help us bloom in adversity. We have to start with us, understanding us. What are our triggers? How do we respond? So, um, this would, these are just some specific tips, I think, that, really help in so many different methods. Okay, conclusion. All right. So, in summary, emotional intelligence is very important for our happiness and success. I don't know if you've ever thought about it that way, but it is. By working on our emotional intelligence, we can improve relationships. I mean, if we stop looking at what we think's affecting us, but really look at us and how, things, how we are we aware of ourselves? Do we have an understanding of what our triggers are? So by working on our emotional intelligence, we can improve our relationships. So you can take care of your mental health, create a supportive atmosphere in your home and at work. That's super important, I think. So I encourage all of you all to think about your emotional intelligence today, and you know um, consider what skills you might want to develop more. And just remember that emotional intelligence, it can help grow with practice and awareness. So that is really so important. And resilience, emotional intelligence, they're just not independent traits. They reinforce each other. And, as we cultivate our emotional intelligence, we enhance our resilience and vice versa. So, but developing both qualities, we not only become more effective leaders, colleagues, but also more compassionate human beings. And isn't that the goal? I mean, how many times should we give grace to someone and we don't? We bypass giving grace, right? But we sure want it for ourselves. But being more of a compassionate individual. So I think that, you know, we should make a commitment to nurture those skills, in ourselves and, hopefully those around us, knowing that together, we can weather any storm, and we can come out stronger. But thank you for your attention. I would be happy to take any questions or hear your thoughts on what I just said about this important topic. Peggy, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. And I don't see any questions in chat, but feel free to put your questions in chat or just come off mute and ask questions. So, Deborah, I'll ask one while we're waiting on others maybe to pop up. So, I know you mentioned there are a lot of tests out there for emotional intelligence. Are there any that you would recommend as a place to get started, or any free ones that might give people a hint as to where they are?
I do not, I wrote them down, but I do not have them in front of me.
Okay, so that sounds like a great Chat GPT question. So
Yeah. And you know what?
I'll do
Another
that.
is if you haven't taken, this is a great, the Myers-Briggs personality trait. That really gives you a lot of insight on not just, your personality, but how you operate in general. They've done a lot of work on that. It's so interesting.
Yeah, so I'm an INTP, Deborah.
Let's see, I'm an ISTJ.
Okay, so you're just like my husband.
He's
So
very
funny.
detailed, isn't he?
Mm.
Anyone else?
So what about questions on emotional intelligence? I think I agree with Deborah. It's so important, and I loved what you said about awareness. And I think being just really aware of how you're feeling in the moment and being in the moment is so important to understanding your emotional intelligence and then being able to control those emotions so you can get through whatever situation you're faced with.
Yep, it sure is. Sometimes we don't do that. Sometimes we're so far into the future thinking about how we're going to handle tomorrow. We don't do that. I'm bad for it. I'm working on it. I'm a
Me
work in
too.
progress.
We all are. Well, I'm still not seeing any questions, so I'm going to be quiet for 1 minute and see if anyone pops anything into the chat or if you want to come off mute and ask something. And I am not seeing anyone come off mute or ask any questions. So I think we can just go ahead and call it a night. And I really appreciate everyone being here. Deborah, I
Thank you.
appreciate your presentation. It was very informative, and everyone who's on the call will receive a copy of the recording if you want to go back and reference anything for the evening.
Okay. Well, I just encourage everyone to keep blooming.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I hope it was, I enjoyed spending some time here with you all tonight, talking about my favorite subject.
Yes, it was great. Thank you. Very informative.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.